Joubert, good afternoon.
Good evening, John, and good evening to your listeners. Charge is a renewable energy company that generates off-grid electricity directly for the consumption in electric vehicles. It's a totally green solution, and it's a totally green solution to take electric vehicles completely off the grid, not put additional pressure on the national grid, and also to replace the import of petrol and diesel. So it's a totally green initiative.
Because one thing that struck me reading through the article on News 24, which prompted this conversation we're having now, was your statement that an EV powered by electricity which comes from the burning of coal does more damage to the environment than a petrol or diesel-driven vehicle. And I went, what? You're massaging the figures to make your case, or is that incontestable?
No, that's absolutely incontestable, and it's based on Eskom's own carbon footprint figures. So it's simply a fact that it makes absolutely no sense in South Africa to migrate from internal combustion vehicles to electric vehicles from a green perspective if you charge those on the Eskom grid as it's currently based on coal.
And I would imagine that most of the relatively low number of charging stations which are available, for example, at a BMW dealership, you can go there and charge your i3, or that those would be powered by Eskom. I would imagine that the number of charging stations which are new energy powered, the charging stations, will be pretty limited.
There are just a handful of them. We commissioned our first completely off-grid charging station in Wolmaranstad towards the end of last year. It was really a true test of the technology and its functioning to design and on spec. So it is doable. But yes, most of the current charging stations are based on the national grid. I think it's an interim measure, and it's going to help the migration initially by making more charge points available. But the long-term and logical and only solution is for off-grid, renewably powered charging stations.
It reaches a point, perhaps, as Eskom adds new green energy to its generation mix and to its distribution grid, that there will come a time where the impact is similar, and then the impact of charging through Eskom, because Eskom has added more green power to the grid, will be less than charging from Eskom now.
Absolutely, 100%. But it's not only a problem with the generation and the power and the dirty coal-powered electricity. It's also delivering the power required to replace petrol and diesel as an energy source for vehicles where it's required, because all of a sudden you're going to have a multi-megawatt demand in a place like Pofara and Bitterfontein, and simply because of all the cars passing through. And the grid was simply never designed to deliver that amount of power in those rural areas. And it's really to that problem that we found a solution, and that we initially aimed at all the rural areas to provide and generate the power where it's needed. And microgrids is really the future. And with a dramatic drop in the cost of solar panels and battery storage, is now completely viable, and it makes no more sense to build these massive national networks when you can simply generate the power, store the power where it's required.
Can you tell me obviously you would like to make a significant contribution to this. You would like to scale up from the one you opened in Wolmaranstad in December, but you're not going to be able to change the situation the way you obviously believe it should be changed by yourselves.
No, I think the ministers should announce a tax holiday in the import of electric vehicles to really stimulate the market and make the vehicles affordable on the one hand, and then to look at the regulations that really hamstrings a network and the development of the network. We've really got regulations that were made with the history in mind and not the future in mind, and it's very difficult to facilitate a migration to green energy.
Joubert, CEO of Charge, thank you very much for chatting to us this afternoon.